There comes a point when the world no longer defines you. The expectations, the demands, the invisible pressures that once shaped your movements. These begin to fall away, like leaves shedding from a winter tree. And in that shedding, thou discover a truth few ever confront. Absence is not loss. Absence is revelation. To withdraw is not to escape. It is to stand in clarity, to remove the energy thou once gave freely to forces that could not see thee. Silence becomes the mirror of your own presence. In the absence of your attention, others are forced to confront the landscape of their own psyche. Shadows stir where light once pressed. They will look for you, question your motives, seek explanations, but the truth remains inaccessible. You are no longer participating in their narrative. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the part of ourselves we refuse to see, the hidden impulses, the unacknowledged truths. When you remove yourself from their orbit, you do not only free yourself, you force them to confront what they have long denied. What you once supplied externally, they must now face internally. The emptiness they sense is not yours. It is the echo of their own incompleteness. The world interprets absence as weakness. It assumes that lack of pursuit signals loss of care, of desire, of investment. But this interpretation is superficial. True absence is deliberate, precise, almost surgical. It is not absence of feeling, but absence of surrender. You do not leak energy to sustain their illusions. You do not perform to satisfy their comfort. You stand apart. And in standing apart, you observe. They will search for what they can no longer take for granted. They will recall your words, your presence, the moments you existed in their periphery. And yet, these memories will not grant clarity. They will confront the reflection of themselves in your absence, a reflection they have long avoided. Every projection, every dependency, every egoic demand will rise unbidden, forced to occupy space within them that you once filled externally. Some will resist. They will try to pull you back with expectation, persuasion, or subtle coercion. Others will flee, unprepared for the weight of their own unexamined selves. And still others will linger, caught between fascination and fear, uncertain whether they can withstand the truth your absence reveals. This is the gravity of withdrawal. It is not force. It is inevitability. You will notice a peculiar effect. The more you do nothing, the more the world reacts. Not because your absence is loud, but because it is undeniable. The void you leave is potent, unclaimed, unyielding. And in this void, the universe reveals the hidden architecture of attachment, projection, and expectation. The invisible threads that once bound you to others now pull back, revealing the underlying dynamics of control and perception. This is the first lesson of conscious absence. The world does not adjust to your presence. It reflects it. And when you remove yourself, you force reflection, not confrontation, not negotiation, not pleading. Reflection. The world has no choice but to encounter itself, and in doing so, to encounter the parts of itself that previously demanded you. Notice how your own energy shifts. Where once you extended yourself in effort, in response, in preemptive action, you now exist without compulsion. You inhabit your own space fully, neither apologizing nor over-explaining. This is the crucible of inner sovereignty. By withdrawing from external validation, you discover internal completeness. You realize that the world cannot define your worth, your integrity, or your presence. You are complete, absent or present, pursued or ignored. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the return to oneself, the meeting of conscious and unconscious, the integration of shadow with light. In absence, you cultivate individuation not through action but through stillness. In withdrawal, you reconcile with your own needs, your own boundaries, and your own power. You are no longer subject to projection because you no longer offer yourself for it. They will not understand this. They cannot until they face themselves. Your absence becomes the catalyst. Every moment they spend searching, every question they ask, every flicker of memory or longing is a confrontation with what they have suppressed. They encounter a vacuum they cannot fill with control, ego, or charm. In that vacuum, only self-examination remains. It is tempting to wonder if this is harsh, if absence is cold. But it is neither. It is precise. It is deliberate. It is the ultimate form of integrity, where your energy is preserved and the unexamined patterns of others are exposed. You do not retaliate. You do not manipulate. You do not assert. You simply exist within yourself, unmoved, and allow the universe to reflect back what is unbalanced, incomplete, or unresolved. This stage is uncomfortable for those unaccustomed to truth. They may misinterpret your stillness as apathy. They may read your boundaries as weakness. They may attempt to provoke reaction where none exists. But these are illusions. The power lies not in the disturbance you create, but in the clarity you embody. You are neither their property nor their problem. You are witness, observer, sovereign. As you maintain this presence in absence, subtle shifts begin. Patterns of dependency dissolve. Expectations falter. Relationships that existed on superficial energy reveal their true nature. Only what resonates with integrity persists. Only what is aligned remains. Everything else recedes, forced to confront the emptiness they previously ignored. This is the essence of conscious absence, the quiet, immutable, unshakable presence of self. Removed from the compulsions of the world, it is not cruelty, it is not neglect, it is power, unassailable, unshared, unyielding, and it is the threshold to transformation. The ripple of absence grows. What began as a quiet withdrawal now permeates every space you once occupied. Presence is no longer demanded, it is observed. The world notices the gravity of what is missing, but it mistakes its cause. They see the void, but cannot see the integrity that produced it. They sense the silence, but not the self-contained strength behind it. This is the paradox of withdrawal. It is invisible yet undeniable, silent yet transformative. The energy that once fueled interactions, obligations, and unbalanced exchanges is now contained. It no longer leaks into the expectations of others, and in this containment lies its potency. Those around you feel the shift. They feel the weight of your autonomy, the depth of your self-possession, but they cannot penetrate it. They can only reflect. It is reflection that awakens discomfort. Shadow rises in the form of doubt, envy, and projection. They will question themselves, their choices, their assumptions about connection and influence. For the first time, they meet the parts of themselves they had long denied. The insecurity, the craving for control, the unexamined need for validation. Your absence does not teach, it reveals. It is a mirror placed not in your hand, but in the architecture of the universe itself. Some will attempt to fill your void with noise, small talk, gestures, or fleeting attention. These efforts are pale against the force of deliberate absence. They are attempts to reassert control over a space they do not own. And yet, every effort that fails reinforces your sovereignty. You do not respond, for response is not necessary. Presence alone, unbent and unengaged, exerts influence far beyond words or actions. This is where the lessons of Jungian shadow deepen. People encounter their projections most vividly when deprived of external stimulus. They project not onto your form, but onto your energy, or the lack of it. Every expectation you once fulfilled now becomes a ghost they must interpret internally. Every demand you once met now becomes a question they cannot answer. You are no longer the solution to their disquiet. You are the witness of it. You, in absence, inhabit clarity. You are no longer entangled in narratives of obligation, approval, or recognition. The world, accustomed to your compliance, falters in your non-participation. Old hierarchies dissolve. Invisible contracts of expectation break silently, leaving only the raw landscape of truth. Those who once relied on your energy must now confront their own incompleteness. Do not mistake this for cruelty. It is precision. It is discipline. It is the Stoic measure of self-possession applied to human interaction. You are no longer entangled because your attention is not for sale. You are not reactive, not defensive, not manipulable. You are still, and in that stillness, you radiate the most profound form of power, the unassailable integrity of self. The effects are subtle but pervasive. People will begin to realign around what is real, what is earned, what is reciprocal. Patterns that depended on unbalanced exchange collapse. Dynamics that thrived on compliance and projection no longer operate. And yet this collapse is not violent. It is natural, inevitable, silent. Like ice forming over still water, the world adjusts to the new temperature of your presence. Or rather, your absence. Those who linger in discomfort may attempt to provoke, to draw you back into old rhythms. They will test boundaries, question motives, and press for relaxation. But you, anchored in self-possession, remain unmoved. Every attempt to disrupt your equilibrium fails because you no longer operate within their paradigm. Your energy is aligned with principle, not preference. Your absence is deliberate, not accidental. Your silence is law, not plea. And through this discipline, a new kind of awareness emerges. You recognize not only the hidden mechanisms in others, but the limits of influence, the futility of compulsion, and the clarity of choice. You understand that the power you have cultivated is not borrowed from attention, nor dependent on validation. It is inherent. It is internal. It is sovereign. Here, the ultimate paradox reveals itself. By removing yourself, you become irreplaceable, not by charm or performance, but by truth. The absence you create is not empty. It is a container of integrity. It cannot be filled with expectation, illusion, or superficiality. Those who seek to understand it must first reconcile with the truths they have long refused to acknowledge within themselves. Every reflection they encounter in this absence is a confrontation with ego, with projection, with the parts of themselves that thrived on dependency or distraction. Your withdrawal is not punishment. It is revelation. It is the shadow shown in daylight. It is a test not of your patience, but of their self-awareness. Only those willing to face the emptiness within will recognize the value of the presence that once nourished them. And so, the quiet continues. Your energy, contained and sovereign, radiates without effort. Your attention, no longer scattered, remains rooted in principle. And the world adjusts, not violently, not consciously, but inevitably. The currents shift, patterns reform, the balance tilts toward what is authentic, unyielding, and aligned. This is the second truth of conscious absence. The universe does not require your justification, only your integrity. What is meant to align will return. What is unprepared will dissipate. You do not need to chase. You do not need to explain. You do not need to negotiate presence. You are complete, and your absence, precise and deliberate, is the instrument of revelation. The culmination of absence is presence, your presence, undisturbed, unbent, unshared. What began as withdrawal becomes not emptiness, but power. The energy you once offered outwardly is now contained within, refined, sovereign, immutable. You no longer participate in the cycles of expectation or projection. You no longer negotiate attention or allegiance. You simply exist in alignment with your own principle. Those who encounter this state are not merely confronted, they are transformed. Not by you, but by the space your absence creates. The void you leave is not silent. It speaks in the language of truth, the dialect of shadow, the measure of integrity. They feel it instinctively in ways they cannot articulate. Their attempts to fill it falter, not because they lack effort, but because the calibration of your being no longer conforms to external demand. You notice a subtle change in thyself. The tension, once required to maintain influence or control, half dissolved. Thou art free from the compulsion to justify, to explain, to appease. Thou art unshakable, not because thou art impervious, but because thou art anchored. Anchored not in reaction, not in validation, not in acquisition, but in the clarity of self-possession. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the integration of conscious and unconscious, the reconciliation of shadow and light. In this state of deliberate absence, thou art living that principle. Thou art whole because thou hast chosen wholeness. Thou art complete because thou hast elected not to surrender thy energy to patterns that distort, manipulate, or dilute thy essence. Thou art sovereign because thou dost recognize that sovereignty is internal, ungoverned by circumstance, impervious to approval. This mastery is subtle, yet absolute. The world reacts not with understanding, but with inevitability. The patterns of dependency, projection, and unexamined expectation cannot endure against the quiet gravity of your presence. Those who are unprepared to confront their own shadows will flounder, confused, unsettled. Those willing to meet their own emptiness will find the reflection you offer, a mirror held by absence, revealing the depth of self they have avoided. There is no resentment here, no need for vindication. Absence is not punishment, it is revelation. It is the lens through which clarity is experienced. Every misalignment becomes visible. Every projection becomes undeniable. Every dependency, every illusion, every unexamined desire rises unbidden, confronted by the quiet force of self-possession. And within this quietude, You feel the full measure of freedom. Freedom from expectation. Freedom from obligation. Freedom from the pull of forces that do not align with your own. Freedom from the noise of validation, the tyranny of perception, the exhaustion of performance. You are not liberated because others respond. You are liberated because you no longer depend upon their response. Some may attempt to draw you back with urgency, charm, or subtle pressure. Some will seek to provoke reaction. Some will misinterpret integrity as distance, strength as coldness. Let them. Their interpretations are irrelevant. Your energy is no longer a resource to be consumed. It is a field, contained, precise, sovereign, and unyielding. You are not diminished by misunderstanding, nor enriched by approval. You simply are. And in this state, you realize a profound truth. The world does not own your presence. Neither does it define your worth. Absence does not diminish you. It reveals the readiness of those who remain, the integrity of what persists, and the necessity of self-alignment. You do not chase. You do not bend. You do not perform. You inhabit your own gravity. The final paradox of this journey is clear. In letting go of pursuit, you command presence. In withdrawing energy, you become magnetic. In embodying detachment, you become indispensable, not through manipulation, not through charm, not through performance, but through the simple, undeniable sovereignty of self. And so, as the currents of life move around you, as projections rise and fall, as shadows confront themselves, you remain unmoved, unclaimed, aligned. You are witness, observer, master of your own essence. The world may attempt to interpret your absence, may attempt to disrupt your equilibrium, may attempt to extract what you no longer give freely. But the deeper truth is immutable. Your energy, your presence, your being, these belong only to you. And finally, in the quiet culmination of all effort, all observation, all integration, the truth becomes undeniable.